Stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the man.
Hey there, comic fans. Bullseye Bob here, and welcome to another episode of Everything Comics. And of course, this will be episode 9 of Having Comics with My Coffee. And as you can see, I have a guest here, and this is Damian from Sleepy Reader 666.
Hey. Yeah, you can call me Sleepy Reader when I'm on.
There we go. And so really happy to have you on the show today.
Oh,
how you doing, Damian?
Here. I am a bit sleepy. I've got a cafe au lait to go easy on my tummy so early in the morning.
There we go. And so that's a great segue. Of course, we're coming to you live and in living color from the Refuge Coffee House here in Portland. You can always find them at 9217 Southeast Foster Road. And this is a great place to come and have a cup of coffee, sit down and talk about comics or whatever you want to talk about. And you can't miss them now, because now they have this big sign that's out in front of the place. And hey guys, if you're ever in town, look me up. Let us know that you're going to be here, and we'll come over and join you and have some coffee.
Right. Best cafe, or one of the best cafes in town. One of the best comic book dudes in town.
Oh, come on, man. Thanks. I appreciate that. And so what I always like to do is talk about the type of coffee that we're drinking. And Damian, what are you drinking today?
The cafe au lait I mentioned.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So early morning coffee is a bit tough on me, so I like things with a lot of milk in it.
Absolutely. And as you can tell, I am not awake yet. And so I got a nice pour over. I believe this is an Ethiopian Chandra. Anyway, really good. I already had a cold brew to try to wake me up, and I'm going to need this for the rest of the show.
I will try a cold brew after we film here.
Nice.
So what is a pour over? Because I always hear you mention that. And I don't know what it is.
So they basically have this little contraption that's got a little filter on it, and they put a certain amount of coffee in it, and then they slowly drizzle hot water over it, and so that's what basically it's the same type of normal percolating coffee, but they're controlling the pour.
The slowness controls the flavor of the coffee.
Exactly, and what it does is actually creates a much smoother coffee, and you get this nice mouthfeel, and so really good stuff.
I've got to try that.
Absolutely. So I have a couple of announcements before we get into the show. One of those is, hey, I'm on another show. Just about every week now I join Bueller from Comics with Bueller, and his show is now called The New Coffee and Comic Show. Guys, if you haven't checked this out, go to the Comics with Bueller channel, and every week we do a discussion on kind of like a roundtable discussion. Last week's topic was which comic book publisher had the best year this year. Great discussion, a lot of comments on it. We got a lot of feedback. This week's episode, I can't wait to get into. The question is, if comics didn't have a monetary value, would you still collect? Oh, great question.
I know my answer to that one.
Oh.
But I will tune in because these discussions are great. I really enjoy that show.
Thank you. We're having so much fun with it. And then, so yeah, tune into that. And then one next thing I wanted to announce is that this week I have a guest with Damian being here. And then next week we're going to have Sam from Sam's Tangled Web, another good friend of the show.
Awesome
Sam
guy.
has joined both of us here at the Refuge for some coffee. And can't wait to have Sam on the show. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was we had a lot of buzz about the Image event, the signing that was coming up, and it got canceled this week, folks. Oh, we were all bummed. The only thing that's okay about it is it's going to be rescheduled. It'll be happening next month. And
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they'll all come back to town again?
They'll all come back to town.
Interesting.
And hopefully they won't get sick this time, because that's what happened. I guess a bunch of them got sick, and that's why they canceled. And so we will tell you all about it when they come out next month, folks. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into our show. We got a lot of comics that dropped this week, a lot of great stuff. Next week is going to be even bigger. But these are the comics that came out this week, December 12th, right? Is it December 11th?
11th, yeah.
And
right.
So these are comics that came off of our pull list this week. And so we're just going to go ahead and get into it. And Damian, why don't you go ahead and you go first?
Okay.
And review
the first comic I wanted to review or talk about is Valkyrie, issue number 6, written by Al Ewing and Jason Aaron, with what they say is a guest artist Perez, I think his name is. Anyway, I've been enjoying Valkyrie quite a bit, and this issue seems to be the beginning of a new arc in which we find out that Death is dying, or Death is sick. And Valkyrie is one of the sort of manifestations or helpers of Death, in the sense that she's one of the bringers of the dead to Valhalla, right?
Right.
That's her job. So she has a relationship with Death, and she has this power where she can see how close to death someone is just by staring at them. Have you been reading this?
I have not.
So it's a cool one maybe to look at someday when you have time for reading more comics.
Yeah, for sure.
The first arc of this was all about Death too, but it was about people trying to take Valkyrie's place and become the person who brings the souls to hell or to Valhalla or heaven or what have you. So, but in this one, she's working in the morgue because she's a doctor and she's been demoted at the hospital and is working in the morgue. And one of the corpses comes to life and tells her Death is in trouble and needs help. And so she gathers together a team of superhero doctors, healers.
Oh, wow.
Including Doctor Strange and Night Nurse.
Oh, nice.
And a bunch of others like Cardiac that I'm not so familiar with. And they all head into the dimension of Death in the second half of this issue.
Wow.
And then they have your typical thing where all these corpses come and attack them and they're fighting. And that's as far as we get with this issue. But so I'm really looking forward to how they're going to play out this Death kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me a lot of, are you reading Justice League Dark?
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of Justice League Dark all of a sudden. It's like they've assembled a Justice League Dark and they're off to fight some kind of supernatural force. And my one kind of about it is the art. Justice League Dark has much better art. I wish the artists from Justice League Dark were on this to give us that, superheroes meet the supernatural feel.
Right.
The artist is okay, but I don't think he's properly matched with the material, which seems like, I think, a problem at Marvel for me. Often the artist doesn't match the story as well as it does at DC, or definitely on indie comics. So, I feel like the Marvel editorial team, a lot of people comment, and I think it's sometimes true, they're using sometimes cheaper artists.
Sure.
But I don't think this is a bad artist. I think it's just someone didn't spend a lot of time thinking what's the right artist for the project. But the art is good enough. It doesn't bring the story down. It's just because when I thought of Justice League Dark, then I thought, well, that could have been even better if it was a little more like Justice League Dark art-wise. But I think this is a really solid comic, and I really enjoy it. And I look forward to the next issue.
Awesome. So we have our rating system of our sticks up, sticks down. What would you give? Would you give 2 sticks up, 2 sticks down, a stick up, and a stick down?
Maybe a stick sideways and a stick up?
There we go.
I don't know if that doesn't really fit, but or if I have to be a stickler, a stick down and a stick up.
All right.
The writing is definitely up. The art was kind of, questionable.
Absolutely. I have my own issues with when it comes to Marvel art. I do believe that they hire artists that can, produce art very quickly so that they meet their
That's
deadlines.
also the aspect.
And I think that's kind of brought the quality down. But awesome review. I have not been reading a lot of the Jane Foster stuff. Now I got FOMO here.
Right.
So I definitely might be checking that out because
I constantly get FOMO because there's too many comics. You can't read them all. No matter, if you could afford to buy $10,000 worth of comics a week, what would you be able to read them?
So if there's a comic store out there that wants to help us out by giving us comics to review, we can advertise your store. Let us know. All right, folks, my first book, and this was almost my pick of the week. This is another one from Boom Comics, and this is the virgin cover or variant cover of Red Mother. And I got to tell you, this was an incredible comic. I love the pacing of it. It's written by Jeremy Hahn, and the art is by Danny Luckert. And like I said, it was almost my pick of the week. Right from the very first page, you get this skeletal figure in kind of a red background, and you really don't know what that is. I mean, I know what it is because I saw the preview for this book on YouTube, but you get the skeletal figure, it's all in red, and then from there, it cuts over to this lady and her boyfriend. They're quickly attacked after some conversation, and the boyfriend disappears, and the the lady, she ends up losing her eye, and now she's in the hospital. They're trying to figure out what's happened to her. She kind of, doesn't really understand what happened. She has this, remembers the boyfriend was there, now he's gone. She's got this eye missing. They give her a prosthetic, and then when she gets stressed out, she starts to get these visions. And whenever she gets these visions, it's in red, like you saw that skeletal figure with. And so finally, she's in public, and she gets really stressed out, and then she gets this full-on vision from this other realm, and she can kind of see the same setting that she's in with all the people in the street walking up and down, like the street of New York is what it kind of looks like. And amidst those people, here comes this skeletal figure zigzagging towards her, and then finally at the end, it's there, and that's kind of where it ends. And the tagline of the preview was the Red Mother, that she can see the Red Mother, but more importantly, the Red Mother can see her, and that's what is coming at her is the Red Mother. And it was
incredible cover,
isn't it?
That's
really
amazing.
I love that. Absolutely, that's why I picked that one up. But I got to tell you, the pacing of the story was really good. The writing and the dialogue was so well done. You really identified with her as she was going through this inside of her hospital bed, and then these visions that she's getting. It left me wanting more at the end of it, which is the hallmark of a good comic. Absolutely. And so I would definitely give this 2 sticks up. If you have not picked this up, I would. This is a really good comic, folks. Boom is killing it this year.
Well, yeah, now I want to get that. I hadn't even heard of that one. So
yeah.
It's great you highlighted that.
Absolutely. So what's your second book, Damian?
My second book, I'm moving to DC with Batman's Grave.
Batman's Grave.
Which is a fascinating comic to me because it really it's written by Warren Ellis and drawn by Brian Hitch, so that was kind of a no-brainer. I had to put that on my pull when I first heard it was coming out. But Warren Ellis, I think, is really trying to focus on Batman as a detective and Batman as a human being. Mm-hmm. So it feels like the pattern now in this book is we alternate between scenes of him having to fight somebody and him doing detective work and trying to figure out stuff. And the fight scenes have very little dialogue, and they are very intense. And I think that's realistic. The whole idea of people kind of having chats while they're fighting and stuff is not very human.
No.
You might just be grunting or cursing possibly, but no more than that if you even have time for that in a fight. So so I really appreciate Warren Ellis is trying to maybe show other people this is what Batman should be. He's like Sherlock Holmes, who also, is into the fisticuffs and stuff. And when he has a fight, he takes as much as he gives.
Yeah.
He's a human being. He's not a Superman. And I really like that. And the detective part is really thorough. It's kind of pseudoscientific, and sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to follow. That's kind of my one flaw with it. I feel like I'm going to have to reread the whole series to follow the detective aspect of it. But I'm really enjoying it and looking forward to, I think it's 12 issues. So a 12-issue detective story is very exciting to me, and see how it goes. And Brian Hitch, for those of you who know Brian Hitch, he's kind of a superstar artist, and he's doing an awesome job here. And the funny thing is, the action scenes are really fun, but I love the way he just draws people standing around talking. Usually Alfred and Batman standing around the Batcave, which is an interesting place to be anyway.
For sure.
But he's just such a good artist. I can just look at any panel of his and just enjoy it, even if the people are sitting drinking coffee. So, it's not a perfect comic. I'm not making it my pick of the week. We'll get to those later. But it's another comic that just has me really excited to see where it's going to go, and the excitement of feeling someone's doing something different with it. So anyway, really cool comic. I don't know yet who this character is, so there's a bunch of mysteries piling up, and it's going to take me maybe more focus than I normally put into a comic book to make sure I don't miss any important points.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, that's also one that I'm reading. I haven't read it yet this week, but first 2 issues, it seemed like 2 completely different stories, and now they're introducing a third character.
Right.
And so I am very excited to get back into it. So what would you think? 2 thumbs
That's
up?
definitely 2 thumbs up.
2 sticks up, I mean?
Yeah, and to your point, like, I think all these different issues are connected, but they're not. In typical Warren Ellis style, he's not making it easy on us.
Right.
We're going to have to be patient and follow the clues to figure it all out.
I'm on board. I want to see what happens next, for sure. And just a quick question, because my pick of the week also deals with Batman, and there is definitely more of a detective aspect to it. And I'm wondering if they're starting to bring Batman more to the more detective feel, because the next movie, The Batman by Matt Reeves, that's what they've said. They're going to bring him back down to being more detective. So I think they're starting to tailor the
Well, that
books
would
to
be
it.
a sign of the movies doing a good thing to the comics,
Yes.
which is not always the case. But Batman really does need to be more of a detective and less of this guy who can solve any problem no matter what it is in an instant.
Absolutely.
He's got to struggle more to solve his problem.
Right. Oh, I love that. Thank you. That's a great review.
Thanks.
Okay, so my next book, folks, my book 2 is another one of the X books. Now, you know I've been really liking this book a lot. This is Fallen Angels number 3. And, of course, this is following only 3 of the mutants from our favorite X books, Psylocke, Young Cable, and X-23. And I've really been enjoying this book so far. I love the artwork. Of course, that's by Zyman Kradansky, I think his name. I'm very bad with trying to
hard names of artists.
I'm telling you. And then it's written by Brian Hill, and I think Brian Hill's been killing it on this. So this one basically starts off where the last one left off, which is they have this kind of robot thing that came up that kind of looks like one of the robots from War of the Worlds, kind of a tripod type thing. And of course, they're looking for this entity or villain named Apoth that is reared its head and is kind of inside of Psylocke's mind, kind of leading her towards him. And so we get this great action scene. The artwork is really good. I'm really digging it. And then from there, it's like, then what? Cable, seemingly in the middle of this fight, gets lost right in front of them. And they don't really explain that. And then Psylocke and X-23 have this conversation that deals with anger. Of course, in the first, I think the second book, there was kind of this mentor type thing where Psylocke is going to help X-23 with her anger issues. Of course, she's Wolverine's daughter. She's going to have, rage issues. And so they go on this kind of journey together of like mentor and student. And so that, and right after this fight happens, you start getting Apoth speaking to Psylocke in her mind, and then you cut over to Cable, and it seems like he's like hung up in a tree, and and you get this entity of an agent of Apoth, which is really cool looking. The artwork on that character is just really cool. But the promise that we were supposed to get the actual character Apoth in this book did not happen. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that after this fight, the writing or the story became kind of disjointed, and it was very hard to follow, which really disappointed me. I think they have a good setup for going forward, and I'm on board. I'll be getting the next chapter, but it really became confusing at a certain point in trying to follow what was actually going on. And so for that reason, I give it 1 stick up and 1 stick down. Artwork was great, story definitely disjointed, and it really did not go anywhere. So that's Fallen Angels number 3, folks.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it'll resolve as it goes on. You're going to stick with that?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with this one. The 2 books that I like from the X books is Fallen Angels and Marauders. The other ones have kind of, they're okay. But those 2 books are the ones that have really stuck out to me. I've really been enjoying those stories, and I'll probably read those going forward. I might pick up X-Men every once in a while because Jonathan Hickman is still writing on that one.
He's still writing it.
And the last issue just killed it. I really enjoyed that one. But anyway, Fallen Angels number 3 didn't deliver like I was hoping it would, but I'm still on board, folks. So there you have it.
Yeah, X-Men is one of my FOMO things because I made the rational decision to wait on trades for the whole Hickman thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then I hear everyone get so excited about it, and I'm like, ugh. But I forced myself to wait. And the big hardcover is out now of Hickman stuff, so I have to get a hold of that. Find time to read all of those.
Yes.
Everyone's been so excited over it. I've been
Absolutely. Now,
jealous.
the one thing I will say about those books is that if you're reading the original, Hox Pox, the 6 issues of Powers of 10 and House of X, I think those collected in a trade will do it very well. But he does lay out how you're supposed to read the books going forward, and I don't think that reading order does anything to the actual story because a lot of them really don't connect.
I see.
And so I'm not so sure that what he's done going forward, in advertising what you're supposed to read has done anything for the story.
So they're trying to make you feel like you have to get them all.
Exactly.
When you don't really.
That's a great way of putting it. That's exactly what they're doing.
Because they want you to spend more money.
All right, so Damian, what is your
My pick of the week?
Yes, the pick of the week.
I love the Dollhouse family.
Yes.
From, what do they call it? Well, it's Black Label, but it's also the Joe Hill Presents Hill House Comics from DC Comics. So it's like got 3 labels on one comic. It's pretty much what used to be a Vertigo comic. And it has some of the people who did one of the best Vertigo comics, the Lucifer series, back in the early 2000s. Mike Carey and Peter Gross. And they're joined by another artist who helps Peter Gross, Vince Locke, and an amazing colorist, Chris Peter, who I hadn't heard of before. But this comic has it all for me. That's why I mentioned even the colorist. I probably should mention the letterer if he was listed on the. Everything just really clicks. It's a beautiful comic. It's a great story. I love the rhythm of the story. The basic setup is there's this magical, haunted, probably evil dollhouse that can draw people into it to come live in the dollhouse. And there's some connection to this strange, multi-dimensional creature that's hidden away, I think, in Scotland or Ireland or Wales, somewhere like that. I'm sorry, I forgot that detail of where.
It's Ireland.
Ireland, okay. Yeah, you've read the first issue, but not this issue. So things progress from the first issue kind of in the direction you'd think in terms of a horror story. So there's not surprises there in that sense, but a good horror story is a good horror story for me. Like, I really like that. And this had me kind of creeped out and scared for the characters, like the best Stephen King books or that sort of thing. And so I'm trying to think of how to describe it without giving away too much. But
we're spoilery on this episode.
Okay.
And our reviews. So if you want to go full spoilers, we're okay with that. If you haven't read your comics by Saturday, and wait to watch the video as you go along. But you go ahead and spoil it as much as you want.
Well, it's not a big spoiler in the sense that, but there's something really intense that happens I'm kind of now unclear what happened in first issue and what happened in second issue because it's so seamless. But did she kill her father in the first issue? Yeah. So we continue on. It's pretty horrific. A young girl killing her father
with a hammer.
With a hammer, because she wanted to save her mother, but then her mother takes the blame for the killing of the father.
Right.
And I'm worried because you haven't even read it. I don't want to give away too much, but it just the bad stuff gets worse and worse, and it's always worse when it's happening to a child. And it's done so well. This is just an awesome horror story, but it's not just a horror story. It's a fairy tale. It's a almost science fiction story, a Victorian. I just love all that's in here, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of not putting it all together in pieces. But this will be something that, for people who haven't jumped on it, will be a must-read as a trade, I believe. And I think it's going to be one of the best sort of Vertigo-style books out there this year. I'm pretty positive. So I'm super stoked over this. This gets like 2 Daredevil sticks way high up in the air.
All right. So I got a couple questions about the book really quick. So, besides the main story, there's the backstory happening in the past in Ireland.
Right.
Did they kind of flesh that out a little bit more?
Yes, and it goes in some unexpected directions.
Nice.
So, again, I'm not remembering clearly what happened in issue 1 versus 2, but
Right.
he goes into a cave.
Yes.
And he has sex with a strange
thing, right?
woman
Whatever it
who
is.
may or may not really be a woman. And there's this giant sleeping creature.
Right.
We still don't know much about the giant sleeping creature, but we see a lot about what happens to his life after those events.
Nice.
But nothing. Everything leads to the next thing. It's just beautiful. The way it's like it's like pages in a book that's perfectly written.
Right,
And it's like,
right.
oh, what's going to be on the next page? A little bit of a surprise, but also what you're expecting from a horror story.
Awesome. And then the last question I have is that there's these little mini stories in the back of these books about the sea dogs.
I have not been reading those.
Okay.
Because I'm only getting this book in
Okay.
floppies. I was thinking with the Joe Hill one, basket of heads.
Yeah,
or
basket
something,
full of heads.
That I would wait for trade on that.
For sure.
So I've only got chapter 2 and chapter 4 of
okay.
the backstory, so I haven't read it. Have you been reading both?
Yes. I mean, I didn't enjoy the first issue of Basket Full of Heads. I know a lot of people really did. The pacing of it, it's a really slow burn. I haven't read issue 2 yet. I do have it. I plan to read that this week. But that Sea Dogs has been a really cool story, even though it's only two, 3
2
pages
pages
long.
each issue, I think.
And
yeah.
I've been really enjoying that. It has a really macabre feel to it, on a ancient ship, and basically there's a bunch of pirates that are werewolves, and so fun stuff, folks.
I don't think that's quite enough to make me go buy the other series yet.
Right.
But now I'm feeling a little bad about that. Maybe I can borrow someone's copy and read it for a few minutes.
There you go.
Because I did look at the art in the last 2 pages, the story, and it looks really good, like really good art, just
really
like it
is.
is in the main story. So my impression from this is that generally the Joe Hill series is going to be good, that he has good taste in the people he brings in to work with him, because this is one of the best teams in comics, in my opinion.
That's awesome. Yeah, they have a number of those Hill House books planned. I think the next title comes out this next week or this next month.
There was a page in there showing like a new book each month, I think.
Okay. Can't wait. Well, awesome. That was a great review, and now I can't wait to get to read my copy
Right,
of
yeah,
Dollhouse.
you'll have to try to forget some of what I said, but I don't think I spoiled too much.
Not a problem. So there's my pick of the week, and as you guys know, I've been really loving Detective Comics, and here we go, folks. Detective Comics issue 1017. This issue here doesn't follow what's been going on. This is a one-shot, and it's written by Tom Taylor and the art by Fernando Blanco. And man, I got to tell you, this is such a good comic book. I'm going to let you know that right now that I'm putting this up there. This may be my favorite comic of the year. It's called Orphans, and it basically starts you off with Bruce Wayne as a kid, and he's up in a tree hiding. He doesn't want to go to the grand opening of the orphanage that the Waynes now own, and his mother comes to him and basically says, "Why are you hiding?" And he says, "I don't want to go because the orphanage makes me sad." And she teaches him a lesson, letting him know that an orphanage, especially this orphanage, is necessary, and that these kids deserve everything that Bruce Wayne has, to be loved, to be cared for, maybe not the billions that he has, but that they have value. And she brings the lesson home, saying that they are worth caring for. And then we cut to modern times, and Batman is doing detective work. He's trying to bring down this ring, and Lucius Fox comes in and basically tells him that there are kids that are going missing from this orphanage. And when Bruce Wayne kind of pushes it off because he's working on this other thing, he says, "Let the police know about it." And Lucius is basically bringing to the table saying, "No, this is your orphanage. You own it," right? And so Bruce is going to go there as Batman, and of course Lucius says, "You don't have to go there as Batman. You own the dang thing. Just go as Bruce," right? And so Bruce enlists the help of his son, who is Robin, Damian Wayne. I'm hit or miss with Damian Wayne, but I got to tell you, I really loved him inside of this issue. And so basically, they start going and looking for these orphans. There's one in particular who has just gone missing. His name is Miguel, and they search high and low. It's freezing outside. The artwork on the snow falling and them looking for him, during these freezing temperatures, it's got a really cool feel to it, and really, you had me on the edge of my seat going, this is so incredibly well drawn, written. The art is just great. So anyway, they find this kid and find out that the reason why he's ran away is because he notices in the orphanage that kids go, they disappear and they never come back, and he doesn't want to disappear too. And but he's been out there in the cold running away for so long that he's starting to fail health-wise, and he passes out, which makes Damian go into a panic, and they take him to the hospital. I'm going full spoilers on this, folks, because this is such a good book. They take him to the hospital, and there's the scene where you see the heart monitor going, and you see father and son waiting in this waiting room together as the heart monitor goes flatline. And there's this cool moment where it's just silence, and they're there with each other contemplating what just happened and the gravitas of just how terrible this tragedy is. Then it goes to, and there's this one cool scene before I get into the crux of this. There's this cool scene when he's enlisting the help of Damian, right? Damian's like, you're going to go after these orphans and care for these kids you don't even know, but your son is right. And he stops and goes, no, it's okay, I'll help you. And it's just like, there's this cool moment, nice. It's like, I'm bringing my dad to the table here on something, but I'm going to help him anyway here.
Right.
Such a cool aspect.
That's a very human moment. I like that.
For sure. And so basically they go back to the orphanage, and, through some detective work, Bruce Wayne finds out that the guy that's the caretaker is the reason why these kids are missing. This ring is out there that are taking these kids, and he's been allowing this to happen. He said they'd hurt me if I didn't, and Bruce, not in Batman uniform, but as Bruce Wayne, beats the living heck out of this guy. And it's a really cool moment. It's not gratuitous or anything like that. But anyway, in the end, you see the add-ons now that the Waynes have made to this orphanage. They've given it new systems. They've given it a new wing. And they're both there in their suits as they cut the ribbon for the new facility, and the lesson being taught to Damian now. This is the good thing. We're showing that they're worth caring for, and he ties it up at the end. It really touched me emotionally. I love Tom Taylor's work.
And all in one issue.
All just a one shot.
I love a good one and done. That's
exactly.
Awesome. That takes real talent.
This has everything that I want in a comic book. It's got that little bit of action that gives me that comic book flavor. But the story was very human. It really brought out the personalities of both Damian and Bruce. I love a good story where Bruce gets brought to the table and he learns a lesson, because 9 times out of 10 he's just so closed off. And this was so well done. My pick of the week, and I'm just going to say it right now, probably my pick of the year. It was very well done, folks. If you haven't been reading this so far, that's okay. Pick up this one, Orphans. The story's called Orphans, Detective Comics 1017, and this is 2 sticks way up, folks.
Well, Tom Taylor seems to me a very good writer who I always thought they would put him on the big book a long time ago.
Exactly.
Ever since I first read him doing Earth 2 back in 2012, 2013, I was like, wow, this writer is really good.
Absolutely.
And
now, I mean,
maybe they'll finally put him on Detective or something like that as a permanent position.
I would love that. I mean, I really, when I saw his name on it, I'm like, oh, is he writing it going forward? No, it's just a one shot. I mean, that's okay, because Detective has been going well. But I tell you what, with the buzz that this book is going to generate, I wouldn't doubt that they're going to put him on some Bat stuff going forward.
Yeah,
I would
make
love
a lot
that.
of sense.
He's a great writer. Great writer. So those are our main books for the week, and now we're just going to do some, because there's so much to read, we're going to do some mini reviews on the other books that we think came off of our pull list. And Damon, you got like 3 or 4 of them. Why don't you kind of go through those?
I'll do, I guess I'll do all. So back and forth, right?
Oh yeah, we do that.
So Oblivion Song, this is just, every issue is good. The story builds with every issue. I love the art and everything. There's usually nothing really new for me to say about it, but it's definitely still 2 sticks up, and the story just progresses with a wonderful forward momentum. So anyway,
That's
2
awesome.
sticks up for that.
Robert.
Robert Kirkman, kind of his main book at the moment, I guess,
Yeah.
because everything else is.
That's one that I
Ending.
didn't hop on, and I'm regretting that I didn't. So at some point, I'm gonna get the collected trade.
It would
and
make a great binge read.
for sure, and I'll go forward with that. Okay, so my next book is from Boom Comics, is Something Is Killing the Children, number 4. I've been really loving this book. The writing is incredible. The story it's got a slow burn to it, but I really dig it. And of course, the art is it's written by James Tinian, and the art is by I can't pronounce the guy's name, but it's really good. I give this 2 sticks up, folks.
Savage Sword of Conan number 12 was a really good one and done. And I think I saw someone on Twitter say this is the last issue.
Really?
It's the Marvel thing where you think you're on an ongoing and it really was just a
Right.
miniseries or something. So, but I love, like we were talking about with Tom Taylor, I love a good one and done. This is a really good single issue Conan story. The flaw is the art's not that great, but the writing was really good. Frank Thierry was the writer, who is not is a very hit and miss writer for me, but so I was expecting not to love it, but I did love it. So a good Conan story. So I'd say a stick up for the writing, up high for the writing, and a stick down for the art.
Aha. All right. And then the next book that I have is Morbius the Living Vampire number 2, of course by Marvel Comics. Art by Vita Ayala. Actually, it's written by Vita Ayala, and it's penciled by Marcelo Rivera. And I got to tell you, this has got a lot of great stuff inside of it. There's a lot of great action. There's a lot of blood, and here we are again with all this action and blood, and nobody dies. I don't know how long you can go with a vampire story with nobody dying, but I'm enjoying it. The writing is really good on it. The artwork is really good, and I'm on board. But like I said, I don't know how long they can maintain that because that's unrealistic to me. So anyway, but I do give this 2 sticks up. Check this one out, folks.
And I had a lot of fun reading Undiscovered Country number 2. This wild and wacky, intense sci-fi story of maybe 30 or 40 years from now, but the world looks nothing like it does now. It reminds me of a lot of Rick Remender books, even though it's written by Charles Soule and Scott Snyder. It just has that vibe of a Rick Remender image comic. So I enjoyed it a lot, but it kind of feels familiar. So
Nice.
2 sticks up though. Great art, great coloring, and all that.
And my third book is also The Undiscovered Country too, and really enjoyed this. The zaniness and wackiness of it and outlandishness of it that was in issue 1 continued in issue 2. I do like the concepts that are brought out by Soule and Snyder, and we didn't get that much more inside of this book. We had a little more of the backstory, and I agree with Robbie Billings on this. This is going to be a slow burn, but I'm on board because of the stuff that they're bringing out with it, and it's just a lot of fun, folks.
Yeah,
2 sticks up for sure. What's your last one?
Okay, my last one, and this is, has frequently been my pick of the week, the Hulk. We're way up there, number 28. And the 2 problems here is substitute artists.
Yeah.
And there was an aspect of it which was kind of a putting down of the blue-collar character, and I don't always like it when they just pile on the blue-collar character as the person who just doesn't get it and is all wrong in his opinions.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair at all, and it's kind of a fictional cliche. So that, and especially finding that in the Immortal Hulk, which I usually has not followed the cliches, disappointed me a bit. And then there were 2 artists, so one artist did the scenes with the blue collar character and his family, and one artist did the scenes at Roxxon Corporation, And the Roxxon Corporation art was really good, and the artist with the family was not very good. And when he had to draw the Hulk, he couldn't even draw the Hulk. Why do you hire someone who can't draw the Hulk well for a Hulk comic? So I'd have to give a stick down for the art and a stick, well, you know what? A stick down for one artist, a stick up for the other. I got my thumbs the wrong way.
There we go, that's fine.
And yeah, maybe a stick down for the writing, but I still enjoyed it. So yeah, it's sort of up and down on the writing.
There you go. That's one that I'm definitely still, I mean, we're issue number 28, and I'm still enjoying it just about every month.
It's an amazing run. So
For sure.
it's just a weaker issue in the run.
And so my last book is, I picked this one because probably nobody will, but I'm really enjoying it, and that is Battle Pug, number 4, folks. I don't know if you can see that. This has been the wackiest, most fun book. It's issue number 4 of the War on Christmas, and I've just been having so much fun with it. The coloring is incredible. I think it's probably the best colors that I've seen in any book. Anyway, I give this one 2 sticks up. If you're not reading it, check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Do you have a pug?
I do have a pug. So that's
I remember you mentioning
that's
that.
part of it. I love
Pugs are dogs with great heart.
Absolutely,
think, so that's
absolutely.
A fun one to do a comic about.
But I do have a lot of fun reading that every week. So, but there are reviews, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gives you enough to maybe go out and buy some books that you normally wouldn't buy. I really enjoy your reviews, Damian. That's one of the things I really enjoy about your show, is that you do pick up some things that I normally don't read, only because of the fact that I can't buy everything.
Right.
And so it gives me some flavor on maybe some other books that I want to check out. So I really always appreciate that.
Well,
about
I pick
you
up
and your
good
show.
tips from you. I got 20XX.
Great book.
Picked it up, a week late after hearing you guys talk about it.
Did you get a chance to read it?
I have not got a chance.
Okay.
I've looked through the art so far.
Okay, awesome.
But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that, and I think I'll get that Batman book, that detective.
So good, so good. And but there's the reviews. Hope you enjoyed that. We don't have books that are outside of our pull list this week because we got a guest on the show.
Right. We've already used up a lot of time.
That's all right. Well, that right there is our show. Damian, I want to thank you very much for coming on today.
This has been great. It's so much fun talking comics with a knowledgeable comic book friend.
I appreciate that.
That's
And
the
back
best.
at you.
That's the best thing for me about YouTube.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, why don't you go ahead and let our viewers know about your show and where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me as Sleepy Reader 666 here on YouTube. Almost every week I do a comic book countdown of all the new comics I've read that week. Kind of like Casey Kasem with his top 40. And then whenever I get new comics, old back issues, I do haul videos, and I also do other videos where I'm just talking in general about comic booky kind of things.
For sure.
So join me. Leave lots of comments. That's what keeps us going, I think, the comments on the videos.
Absolutely. So you can find the link to Sleepy Reader 666 down inside of the description. You'll also find a link for Comics with Bueller and Sam's Tangled Web. Go and check out some of these channels. Damon, I really appreciate your show. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks.
It's always good hanging out with you. We got to hang out last week and just have some wonderful conversation. And so maybe later on we'll have
more in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there you have it, folks. Having comics with my coffee. I know it's a little bit longer show today, but it was so good I could keep going. But here we got to end it at some point. And so, hey, folks, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe if you're liking the content that we're coming up with. We got so much more that we're going to be doing in this next year. Really excited about that. Remember, support your local comic shop, and Excelsior, folks.
Excelsior.
Continue to debate whether Logan's claws could pierce Steve Rogers' shield.